السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، نحمده ونسبحه ونقدسه، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وترحم على محمد وآل محمد كأفضل ما صليت وسلمت وباركت وترحمت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. وصل اللهم وسلم على خلفاء نبيك وأوصيائه وأهل بيته وأحبته، عليا أمير المؤمنين وقائد الغر المحجلين، وعلى البضعة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، وعلى سبطي نبي الرحمة وسيدي شباب أهل الجنة الحسن والحسين عليهما السلام، وعلى علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي، عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل مخرجه وجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه. عباد الله، أوصيكم وأوصي نفسي بتقوى الله ولزوم أمره. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم في سورة ياسين: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون، هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون، لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون، سلام قولا من رب رحيم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. A frequently asked question in our community and our society: do we encourage the intra-faith marriages? Do we encourage the Shi'i-Sunni type marriages? Well, I don't think there is a simple answer to this. There is no simple yes or absolute yes or absolute no to this difficult question. It is a case by case. It depends on people's openness, people's culture, people's level of education, people's mentalities and characters. Of course, if you come to the fiqhi, the jurisprudence issue here, the answer, the vast majority of the scholars on both sides say it is okay. The scholars of Ahlul Bayt says it's okay to marry for a Shia, be it male or female, to marry a Sunni. So a Shia daughter, a Shia son can marry from other schools of thought. They can marry from Sunni traditions, provided that the other person from other schools is not sectarian, he's not a takfiri, he does not have an intense hate and dislike to the school of Ahlul Bayt, to the Imams of Ahlul Bayt and the followers of Ahlul Bayt. If he's moderate and he loves Ahlul Bayt, then no doubt it's okay. This type of marriage, the Shi'i-Sunni marriage, the intra-faith marriage, would be okay. But here today we're going to discuss this from a social dimension, moral dimension. What are the ramifications? Do we think this would work or not? What are the advantages of this? The pros and cons of this marriage? The answer that I humbly provide through my humble experience in this field is that if there is a mutual understanding, mutual respect and tolerance and openness between the two spouses, between the husband and the wife, one of them being from this tradition, the other from another tradition, one of them from the Shia school of Islam, the other from the Sunni school of Islam, if they have mutual respect and understanding for each other and for each other's traditions, and if they have freedom of choice and a freedom of ideology and a freedom of religion and a freedom to practice their religion without coercion, without intimidation, and then tomorrow their children are going to have a freedom of choice, freedom of religion, freedom of worship. They are not going to be forced to embrace one school and go against the other school. They have the choice. It's up to them. Out of their understanding, out of their learning, they would choose their path freely, without the intimidation of their parents. Maybe with the encouragement. Encouragement is different than intimidation. Maybe with the education of their parents, but not intimidation, not coercion, not force, not bigotry. In that case, this marriage most likely is going to be fruitful, productive, and stable. It would work. But let me share with you what I have seen for the last quarter of a century, at least in Southern California and elsewhere, when it comes to this type of marriage. And I'm going to be very frank and very open and candid with you. And I'm going to explain some of the ramifications, not all of them, and share them with you today. One of them that I have seen, the negative aspects of such type of marriages, is that though the spouses and the partners and the husband and the wife understand each other, they respect each other, but both of them, or maybe one of them, come from a less tolerant society or culture, and a member of their family or their extended family, in some cases, one of their aunts, one of their uncles, one of their grandmothers, grandfathers, cousins, is narrow-minded, and they or he or she would interfere in their life. The intrusion, the interference of others from their family in their life is going to destroy this marriage, because they have less tolerance for other schools of thought. And this happens in some specific cultures. I don't mention names because some people are going to get offended. In some countries, in some cultures, people have less tolerance for other schools of thought, because there is a lot of sectarianism, a lot of misconception and misunderstanding and mistrust between Shias and Sunnis in that country or in that specific culture. So, although the husband and the wife, they are nice with each other, they try to lead a peaceful life, but it is the interference of others, other family members. And if the husband and the wife are not strong, determined, decisive, powerful in their personalities and characters, then this intrusion and this interference is going to destroy their marriage. And I have seen this. The example that I just provided, I've seen it. How a beautiful marriage between a Shi'i and a Sunni ended in misery, in collapse, because a member of one of the families disliked Shia Islam, for instance. or was suspicious about Shia Islam. So this is one example. Another example I have seen, that the husband and the wife, the boy and the girl, both of them respect each other. They have no problem with each other's school or a tradition or religion or madhab or aqidah or ideology. But sometimes the father says, out of ignorance of course, would say to his daughter, no. I'd rather you marry a Jew or a Christian than marrying a Shia Muslim. Not a Muslim, he wouldn't say a Muslim, he says a Shia, because Shias are non-Muslims. And sometimes, to be fair, I have seen the opposite. Someone says to his daughter that you would never be able to marry a Sunni because they are not one of us. They don't subscribe to our belief, therefore they are not qualified to marry our sons or our daughters. I've seen this too in our communities. Of course, this is also, I consider it to be ignorance, a type of ignorance, a type of bias and bigotry. A third example, or a third matter, a third issue, is that sometimes one or both spouses impose preconditions to this marriage. They would ask the other side to convert to their school of thought, to their religion, to their madhab. He would say to her, she would say to him, we are not going to get married. My father says, I'm not blessing this marriage unless she converts to Shia Islam or he converts to Sunni Islam. Also, this is wrong. It's wrong to impose religion or ideology on others, including your children. It's wrong, my friends, because aqidah and religion is a spiritual matter. It's an inside matter, not outside. So you can't force someone to embrace an idea that he is not convinced of. He understands nothing about it. Yes, it is good to encourage them, to provide them with materials, with books, with lectures, with discussions, and show them the way. But to impose it on them and make it as a prerequisite for this marriage, that does not work. That is not healthy. It's not wise and it is not good. Leave people alone. Don't force them to follow. Don't force them. Encourage them, but don't force them. Facilitate the journey for them, but don't force them. Don't put a deadline and say by this date, December 31st, 2020, if you don't convert, then you are not marrying my daughter. Don't say these things. They don't work. They don't work anymore. And these types of conditions are going to backfire. Backfire. لا إكراه في الدين. لا إكراه في الدين. Religion and matter of aqidah has to be embraced with love, with conviction, with understanding, with openness, with assertion, with pride. We don't want people to follow Islam because someone forced them to follow Islam. We don't want people to be Shia because someone put a condition, imposed a condition on them. What is the value of this type of Shi'ism or Islam? Well, it's nothing. Are we short on numbers? Do we want to increase the numbers of our followers? No, it's not about numbers. This book says it's not about numbers. It's not about quantities. It's about qualities. It's about qualities. We need to raise the quality, not the quantity. We have too much Muslims nowadays. We are not short on numbers, but we are short on qualities. Quality faith. My friends, let me say something to those who'd like to marry, who are in love with someone from other traditions, other religious traditions. The language of love is stronger than any other language, prevails over all other languages. Language of love is stronger than language of faith today, and culture and color. This is why you see a black man marrying a white lady, or vice versa, or someone from China marrying someone from India, someone from Buddhism marrying someone Muslim, a Hindu marries a Christian, a rich marries poor person, because language of love prevails always. But let's be careful. This language of love in the beginning is very strong. During the era, the time of romance, romantic relationship in the beginning is very intense, is very strong. It prevails. But by the time, if there is no real commitment, if there is no real honesty to this marriage, if there is no real sacrifice for this marriage, then that language is going to subside by the time, by passing of the time. So that language requires sustainability, continuity. Are you ready for it or not? One of the elements that makes your marriage stable in the long run, in a long-term stability, is when you share the ideology, the ideas, even when it comes not necessarily to religion alone, but to politics too, to economics too. You have to have a shared ideas, common ideas. If you don't, then you start arguing with each other. And these small arguments, though in the beginning look very small, but by the time they're going to be enlarged. Like the prostate gland, the enlargement of the prostate gland, slowly, slowly. And it will cause a problem for you and your spouse. Therefore, do not be blinded. When you fall in love, I know I am not saying a good sentence now. I'm not being realistic. Because someone who falls in love is blind. Automatically, spontaneously, inherently becomes blind. Love is blind. But try not to be blind. Try not to be overwhelmed by your emotions. Be overwhelmed with your reason, with your aql. Because marriage depends, an institution that depends on stability, on peace, on a mutual understanding. And if these elements are missing, that marriage is not going to continue. Let me say something at the end about Shi'a-Sunni marriage and what makes it workable and practical and peaceful too. Of course, I will dedicate a whole session for the topic of how to end and minimize sectarianism between Shias and Sunnis. This is an important topic. We must be open about it. We must discuss it in our circles. Our imams, our educators, our leaders, our fathers should discuss this in an atmosphere of respect and openness. But in regards to Shia-Sunni marriage, let me say something. In regards to intra-faith marriages, how to minimize the conflict and make this type of marriage workable. Number one, let me say something to the followers of Ahlul Bayt, Shia Islam, and then I will say something to the followers of the school of Khulafa, the Sunni Islam. When it comes to the Shias, many of us have to be more sensitive when we mention the Khulafa and some of the wives of the Prophet. In fact, two of them. Among 13 or 14 wives, two of them. The rest, there's no problem with them. Two of them because this book speaks about them, not us. This book. Surah Al-Tahrim. In the beginning of Surah Al-Tahrim, verse number 4. We have to be more sensitive and more considerate. And some Shias, not all, many of them are very respectful, very mindful, but some of them become overly emotional and they resort to cursing, la'an. La'an is not appropriate. La'an will exacerbate this division and this divide and this hate and this suspicion between Shias and Sunnis. And la'an, my friends, slandering, bad-mouthing, using abusive language would not help your cause. No cause was successful in the history of mankind. No cause was able to prevail through slandering. And this is not the akhlaq, the manners of Ahlul Bayt, the family of the Prophet, and their leader, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not their trait, it's not their quality. It's not their tradition to curse. Imam Ali alayhi salam, during the Battle of Siffin, Muawiyah was fighting him, and no one in the history of Islam hated Imam Ali like Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan. He used to curse Imam Ali during the life of Imam Ali and 60 years after the death of Imam Ali. He made it part of the Friday prayers. Ask some people who are knowledgeable and some who speak the truth, why today in the Friday prayers the Imam ends his sermon with this verse in the Quran? إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. This sentence was inserted during the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, year 99 Hijri. Because before that, for so many decades, Muawiyah forced the speakers of a Friday, those who give the sermons on Fridays, to curse Imam Ali and Ahlul Bayt. Check it out, read it in the books of history. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz came and said, enough is enough. Ali is the cousin of the Prophet, his son-in-law. Ali is the first defender of Islam. So he replaced it with this verse in the Quran. But still Imam Ali, when he saw some of his followers in his army cursing the people of Muawiyah on the other side of the river, because they blocked the river and they did not allow them to get water, Imam Ali said, إني أكره لكم أن تكونوا سبابين. I hate for my followers, people who belong to me, to be slanderous. إني أكره لكم أن تكونوا سبابين. ولكن, but, لو وصفتم أعمالهم, if you describe their deeds, وذكرتم حالهم, and mention their states and their condition, كان أصوب في القول. It will be more accurate in speech, وأبلغ في العذر, and more convincing in reason. Rather than cursing, just describe what they did to you. You don't have to curse. We disagree with many of them, with many khulafa, and I am the first one who disagrees, and with some of the wives of the Prophet, but I don't curse. We mention what the book says, what this Holy Quran says. That's enough. That's enough. Do I have to curse and badmouth? It's not good. It's not good. When it comes to the Sunni brothers and sisters, this is my humble advice to my Sunni brothers and sisters in my community and other communities. Do not judge the Shia or misjudge them. Do not depend on your information about Shia Islam on gossips and rumors and fairy tales and myths. These are myths. قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ. You have to bring evidence. Don't start pointing your fingers left and right that Shias don't pray, Shias they have a different Quran than us, Shia worship Imam Ali, Shia does this and Shia. These are not right, my friends. These are false accusations that has been circling for many decades, many centuries rather. Don't do that. Go and visit a Shia scholar, read a Shia book written by a legitimate scholar, not someone who's controversial. Do not quote anyone who's controversial, neither in the Sunni tradition nor in the Shia tradition. Controversial people, put them aside. They are not an honest source of knowledge. They are not reliable. And God says to us, don't follow something which is unreliable. إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. God is going to hold you accountable about your information, your conviction, your ideas, your beliefs, your ideology. Is going to hold you accountable. Go to a Shia mosque, Shia scholar, Shia book, Shia legitimate source, and ask your questions and find out about the answers. Don't depend on rumors. We have to educate ourselves. My friends, Islam is not only Friday prayers, 2 rak'ahs on a Friday and that's it, I'm done for the week. There is more into Islam. Islam is about intelligence, is about education, is about knowing who's who. What was the past? If we don't understand the past, we are not going to understand and appreciate the present, neither the future. We have to understand, we have to read the Islamic history. Islam is about ilm. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. اقرأ, read. Use your intelligence. We cannot put 2 people in the same cabin in paradise, the victim and the murderer, radiyallahu anhum. Both of them, God is pleased with them. Muawiyah and Hajr ibn Adi. Both, Muawiyah who murdered Hajr ibn Adi, we put them in the same cabin in paradise, and God is so forgiving. That does not happen, my friends. That does not happen. There should be justice. Islam is based on system of justice. Someone who did well and good and pious, we say thank you to him. We follow him. We praise him. And someone, he did so much damage to Islam, so much damage to the humanity, someone who divided the ummah, someone who murdered the innocents, someone who attacked the Prophet, insulted the Prophet, I cannot say thank you to him, because the Prophet is more important to me than fulan and fulan and fulan and fulan. The Prophet is the messenger of God. Others are ordinary people. The Prophet is right and others are wrong. I have to defend my Prophet. If I have a zeal, then it has to be for the Prophet, not for others who are against the Prophet. We need intelligence. We should not divide the ummah. إن هذه أمتكم أمة واحدة وأنا ربكم فاعبدون. Once we try to understand each other from the right sources, we're going to respect each other. Not only to create healthy marriages, intra-faith marriages, but also healthy community and healthy society and healthy Islam, healthy religion, a healthy unity, a real unity. Unity has to be real, not commercial. Sometimes some people call for a commercial unity. That does not work. Artificial and commercial unity does not work. Unity has to be genuine. Genuine. And one day, inshallah, I'm going to speak about how to minimize sectarianism. My friends, speaking about Shi'a-Sunni marriages and marriage in general, I invite you to visit this website, www.meettheone.org, a newly created website with a dedicated group of honest, hard-working volunteers who are trying to bring our youngsters together, those who are seeking marriage, especially the boys. We have many applications from the female sides, but less applications from the male sides, because females are more eager to establish a family and be stable. Boys are busy doing something else. So we need to encourage our boys to go to this website, meettheone.org, fill the application. It's absolutely confidential. No one shares nothing, no picture, no sentence, no story with anyone. They would call you and they would help you to find the right spouse, inshallah, with the help and the guidance and the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.